Hello, welcome to Technically Edinburgh. We originally recorded this episode a whole year ago in March 2025 with the view to release it during the Institute of Animal Technology's Animal Tech Month, which is March. Due to some technical difficulties, we couldn't get it released last March. So here it is in March 2026, where it is Animal Tech Month again. Our guest for this episode is Kyle Davies, who last year was the technical officer at BVS and has since taken on a new role of Deputy Facility Manager.
Hello and welcome to Technically Edinburgh, the podcast for and about technicians at the University of Edinburgh. My name is Lee Murphy.
And I'm Charlie Corcoran, and our guest today is Kyle Davies. Kyle is a technical officer at Bioresearch and Veterinary Services, also BVS, at the University of Edinburgh. Kyle started his career with the university in 2013 as a cage washer before progressing to his current role. Along the way, he earned his MPA Animal Technology and NACO qualifications and has gained extensive experience in animal care and research support. Kyle's passionate about supporting research through his role, and he's also been involved in BVS's Technical Opportunities Initiative, which we'll definitely be talking about more later on. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the podcast.
No problem. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Kyle.
We'll start with an easy one, hopefully. Can you tell us about your current role as a technical officer at BVS? What does it entail?
So my current role at the minute, it's animal care. So on a day-to-day basis, it's where we will check the animals in the morning, and we will deal with any litters, any weans, and so we support the research staff, and they submit tasks, which is jobs to carry out, such as maintenance and different experimental procedures. So on a day-to-day basis, it can be quite repetitive. However, every day is not the same. It's a total whirlwind sometimes. You don't know what you're going to expect. So it's pretty much day-to-day care of animals, cleaning and just making sure they're all good. Animal welfare is a big thing in our role. So that's what we do on a daily basis.
Which animals is it that you're looking after?
So it's mice predominantly. We did used to have rats in the facility, but we've not had them for a good while now.
Did you always want to be an animal technician?
So I was quite fortunate. I had a family member in this business. So, growing up, it was my dad who was in this business, and he worked for Roslin Institute. At Roslin Institute, he covered a lot of stuff. So I never knew a lot what my dad did when we were growing up. He always told us he was James Bond. It was at that time, animal research was kind of, people didn't really talk about it as much. So I was fortunate that when I was in high school, I did a talk on embryology, so I got to touch on that. That's where my interest came from, and that's where I went from it. And that, like I said, I did my work experience at Roslin Institute as well. I got to do a lot of stuff working with farm animals, doing DNA genotyping, worked in the animal facility, seen chick eggs that were half cut open. I've had quite a lot of experience with different things. We used to go in the summer and we'd just go and see the cows, the sheep, everything. It was quite good. That's and obviously caring about animals as an initial thing. I love animals. I'm an animal lover. And obviously it sounds a bit different when you're saying about animal research. You care about animals, but it is fundamentally you caring about animals.
Yeah, that's a really important point. Like, animal technicians care about animals. That's why they're animal technicians. That's why they're in the job looking after and caring for the welfare of the animals. Yeah. You studied construction at college, is that right?
Yeah, so I was studying joinery, paint and decorating, and engineering. So it was a kind of like a taster sort of thing. And I said, I wanted to be a joiner as a backup thing, or go from that. So I was going down that route, and then a job came up with the university, and I thought, I was 18 at the time, and I was like, keep studying or earn money. And it was kind of like, earn money doing a job that I actually want to do, or keep studying for a job that I want to do. It was a kind of hard thing, I think then I made joinery a backup sort of thing. And then I've never looked back, and I've never been back there,
You didn't start out as an animal technician, did you? How did you start out?
No, so I first started as a cage wash technician, so that was pretty much at the bottom of the pile sort of thing, where, you know, you would, all the technicians would do their cleaning, you would deal with that cleaning, you would clean the cages, you know, and you would also maintain the cleanliness of the facility. So, so a cage wash was the first part of the role, which was, you know, I loved it. You know, if I could get the same money now, I would still do it. It's a job you can just go in, batter on, not even have to worry about anything, and just, you know, when you go home at the end of the day, that's it, done and dusted.
Can you tell us then about your journey from cage washing to where you are now? Because you've progressed through the university, and you've developed your career as you've gone. Did you go through promotional pathways? Did you have to apply for different jobs? Like how has that all worked out for you?
Yeah. So, obviously we had to do our probation time. We had to, you know, kind of do that. When I did my interview for the cage wash technician, there was the offer of further education, which was to then develop on to becoming an animal technician. So it wasn't such as a promotion sort of way. It was, you had to apply for a job. So I had to be able to get a good bit of experience of how a facility runs. So when you're in the cage wash, you need to maintain a barrier. You need to make sure that barrier is maintained and, you know, deal with situations that can occur. You know, at the Western, there's a lot of problems, you know, over the years. We've got to be there to maintain that. So once I had, you know, got my feet under the table, I'd done the animal technology course over a case, I think it was 2.5, 3 years. So, and I was still working at the same time. So it was kind of a thing where you did the qualification, you know, and you got some experience in the rooms, and then you just had to apply for the post of becoming an animal technician. So then after all that time, I'd applied for it, and I had sat the PIL course just at the end of being a cage washer. So that then gave me the qualifications to be able to progress onto a animal technician.
And the PIL course, that's a personal license course, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yes. So if you're doing any regulated procedures, you have to be a licensed technician or a licensed researcher. You know, there's lots of things that you can do without having a license. However, if you're going to be supporting any experiments, you have to be licensed to do these sort of things.
In terms of career progression at the university, like you've been here from the start, like, you know, your career started here and you've progressed up through the different positions. Career development is like a hot topic right now for technicians and getting that structure in. So it's interesting to hear that you had to apply for that job. You know, there wasn't a way that, I know we don't get promoted, but you could get promoted. It's almost disappointing to me that you had to apply for another job.
So what are some of those key challenges that you've faced as you moved into these more senior roles?
So the challenges for me from going from cage wash to the animal rooms would be, you know, like there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to an animal holding room. Whereas in the cage wash, you could go in, switch off, and just get your head down and get on, and you know exactly what you had to do. Not that you don't know exactly what you've got to do in an animal room, but it was just a lot less having to worry about getting things done in a timely manner. So going from that to an animal room where you've got a lot of different factors where you're responsible for animals' well-being, and making sure things are getting done, you know, task requests from researchers as well as covering experiments. There's, you know, you need to have those things done in a timely fashion. So it is quite a big change in terms of your thought process and how you deal with things. And obviously there's a lot of things you have to abide by. You have the 5 freedoms, and all the scientific regulations as well as home office regulations. So you have all of that as well.
So what are the 3 R's, please, and the 5 freedoms?
So the 3 R's are refinement, replacement, and reduction. So when we're talking about refinement, we're looking to better techniques and how we can, you know, support animal welfare and make sure that the animals are, you know, not in any pain or any suffering. Replacement, we're looking for techniques where we don't have to use animals. So a lot of research groups can sometimes use like cultures, so they'll do cell cultures and stuff like that. So reduction is we look to, reduce the amount of animals that are used in an experiment so that, you want to keep it to a minimal as possible, but you still want to get a good result from that study. These are things that, when you're looking to investigate different, we have different people looking at different things. We have cancer models, there's been Alzheimer models, all stuff like that. You want to get the best results, but you still don't want to have a high usage of animals. And the 5 freedoms, we have freedom from hunger and thirst, freedom from discomfort, freedom from pain, injury or disease, freedom to express normal behaviour, and freedom from fear and distress.
Good, excellent. So you were saying about some of the challenges you faced as you kind of went into these more senior roles.
Yeah, so a lot of it is, you've got to really be on the ball with these sort of things. You've got to make sure that all these things are abided by. We have standard operating procedures in place as well as we have within the university they have a system for ERFs, which is an experimental request form. So what that is where researchers will submit an ERF that details the outline of the experiment that they're going to do. So it covers, what's going to happen, what happens if an animal is sick, what's the threshold, we have severity levels as well, which kind of, if the animal is in a lot of pain, that's where the end point is. So we have to, as technicians, we have to look at these things as well as the vets looking at them, because sometimes the vets have to deal with a lot of these forms. So there can be a simple little thing that, you just want to query that, can I do this? Is this the right thing? And also you have to be trained in that skill to be able to carry out that procedure. And if you're not trained to do it, you can't carry it out. So you need to be able to make sure that, as technicians, we're all trained up to support where we can. There is a system in place where there's trainers, which I am at the moment as a technical officer, where we'll train other people in different techniques so that when they do these things, that they are, competent to do so, and that the animals, are, there's no any pain, distress, or any welfare concerns when it comes to doing it. So off the top of my head, there's a lot of different things that you can think about, but penultimately the main factor of our concern is, that animal needs to be happy, safe and sound, and needs to be well looked after. And that's our big responsibility. It's a massive, massive thing for us.
So that's probably a big challenge for us when it comes to the researchers, who sometimes can come across as their experiment is more important than an animal. But I can understand that, experiments are very important and they need to get the data. However, if an animal is unwell, an animal's unwell. There's no other way about it. So there are instances where you have to have a conversation with the researchers to get that point across. This animal is really sick and they are suffering. We need to really do something about it.
Does that kind of thing happen often?
In recent years, no, I wouldn't say so. But I do remember from the past there were quite a good few times where there were situations where I had to deal with that, and I know that a lot of other technicians have as well. But in the last, good few years, the researchers have a lot of trust in us. We develop relationships with them, and they kind of know us a lot better. So they know that we are dealing with and looking at their animals every single day. We are looking after them, their well-being, caring for them. So they know that we're not just saying something for the sake of it, and that we've, especially if it's experimental, we've looked into the information behind that experiment. So if it's an unexpected sign of illness, then something has to be dealt with for this situation. So they know that we've looked into it, as well as not just saying that this is sick, this needs to be dealt with. But they also know that we want to prevent any pain and suffering to the animals, because that's our number one priority.
And is there anything, because obviously it's a highly legislated area, is there anything legislation to help you, to back you up?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, there is an ERF which gives you an outline of an experiment, from what the procedure would be, what to expect, why they're doing this, and who would be doing it. So only trained and licensed staff are allowed to carry out licensed procedures after having completed training by competent trainers and having assessors as well. So you also have severity limits and protocol numbers that each experiment will be given, depending on what the group would be doing, and these are assigned in accordance to PPL. So severity limits are a classification system that defines the maximal level of pain, suffering, or distress an animal may experience during a regulated procedure. So, for example, you have a mild, which is short-term pain, suffering, or distress, which has no significant impact on the animal's well-being. So we have those in place to help with the guidance and knowing what the parameters of the experiment are. You'll also be given a description of expected and unexpected clinical signs, so that when you're checking the animals, you're aware of what to look out for and what signs will require intervention. Then you have things like body scoring, weight loss limit, and so on. So it is a very strict and regulated system to ensure that groups are within the law and nothing that doesn't have scientific justification is being carried out on animals.
And these things are decided in advance?
Yeah, so before anything can go ahead, the ERFs are submitted to our vets, who will have they'll have a look at the ERF and will ask any questions to make sure that all these are abided by and that the laws are adhered to. So before anything can go ahead, that needs to be approved by our vets. And depending on the experiment, it could also be submitted to the AWERB, which stands for the Animal Ethical Review Board. And they would be checked against the project license to ensure that the experiment is allowed to be carried out by the researching group. So animal research is not a subject to be taken lightly. So it is a big deal. It's research at the end of the day, and it's being carried out with animals. Nobody wants to have any animals potentially undergo any pain or suffering, but in order to understand different developments of various diseases and illnesses such as cancer, unfortunately there has to be that part for the time being. We do want to get away from using animals in research, but there will still have to be a part of it, unfortunately, because we have to collect the data, and then that data can be then used to generate a computer model, but I couldn't fully say what's required to develop that kind of thing, as I've never been involved in that side of it. But it will take some time. But we're always looking to improve the way in which we do these procedures and experiments and try to look for other alternatives. As I said, we have the 3 R's. But take AI for an example. A lot of data had to be collected in order for that to be developed. And even then, it still needs to gather more data as time goes by. So it's forever learning, just as much as we are in the scientific research industry.
We talked earlier about your animal technology qualification.
It's MPA Animal Technology, yeah.
You needed to do that before you moved from cage wash to animal technician, is that?
Yes, yeah, that was the kind of the stepping stones that you had to get your feet under the table, know how a animal facility functions, and then doing the qualifications to understanding what animal care is, how to provide animal care, and all the different variations of different things that can happen within these sort of things.
So my question was, how important was that in advancing your career? But I guess pretty important if it was the stepping stone to get you into the next step.
Very, very, very important. As a kid growing up and stuff, I had a dog, had pets. It's a total different world to, you're regulated by the Home Office, and they have their set standards of how things are supposed to be, and when you look at a personal pet compared to working animals, it's a total different thing. So it was very, very important doing that course, because I gained a lot of knowledge about things I wouldn't even have thought of, and these things can be applied to your own personal pets as well. Something doesn't look right, let's check to see how the fur is, how's the skin, what's happened here, it applies to life as well. So yeah, it was very, very important.
And you said you did it at the same time as working, but it sounds like it was quite an integrated course.
Yeah. I mean, it was, you had to find the time to be able to do the course as well as doing the job at the same time. So it was back then it was a very busy facility. So, it was a lot of things to be done. But I was given time in the afternoons and especially on Fridays to, sit down, do my coursework, do exams when needed, so it was kind of good to be able to do a module and be able to apply it to what I was actually doing, because it covers these things where you're talking about the sterility of a facility and, sterility of equipment, all these sort of things. So you're able to apply that to that. Whereas when I was doing that course, I was in charge of a stock room, which is stock animals. So I got to do their care. I was responsible for those animals and, I got to apply what I was learning to that job as well.
Much easier to learn and to follow along, and when you can apply the knowledge as you're learning it, as just sitting in a classroom and listening, I guess. You also have an ACWO qualification?
Yes. So an ACWO is a named Animal Care Welfare Officer. So there, every facility has one. We have as a technical officer, it's part of our job that, we have that qualification for anything, if the facility manager's off and the NACO's off, sometimes the facility manager is the NACO, sometimes the deputy is the NACO, so it's just, if they are both off, we need to be able there to step in, sort of thing. So, it's a pretty important thing, we have a better understanding of how illnesses are. You have your basic care and how basic signs of ill health are, but the NACO courses kind of goes into a bit more detail and a bit more understanding.
You're there as the NACO to help other technicians and researchers make those decisions about the animal's welfare.
Yeah, that's what the NACO's for. Like I say, I'm not officially the NACO. I just have the qualification. As a normal technician without that qualification, we have the knowledge and skills to be able to, consult with researchers as well and discuss this is what's going on. This is what we need to do to deal with this situation. But penultimately, if anything has to be dealt with, like a treatment sort of thing, that would then go to the NVS or named veterinary surgeon, and they would advise what to do and if there was any treatment to be applied.
Kyle, you were able to take part in the Technical Opportunities Scheme. Can you tell us a bit more about that and how that works?
Yeah. So the Technical Opportunities was a scheme that BVS had rolled out a few years back. Now, I'd recently moved facility and took a job up at that facility, and I was quite fortunate that the person who was doing the Technical Opportunities role back when I originally started was taking a year out and going back home to Greece. And when it came up, I thought, what is this job role? So basically what it is a research group are offered to hire a technician for a percentage of time. So in my case, it was 8% of time. So what that basically meant was that, we were there to support them a little bit more. So the way a normal technician would do things is through tasks and, any procedures would be billed, any experiments that you helped carry out were billed, whereas the Technical Opportunities role allowed that billing to, was already covered in the 80% of your salary. So I was fortunate the role was lab-based as well. So I got to do a couple of bits and bobs in the lab and kind of get experience with that, because as animal technicians, you're just in the animal rooms. You don't get to know a lot of the stuff that goes on afterwards. Once tissue's been taken, what happens after? So I was able to, follow an experiment from making the plasmid from all the way to the end result of harvesting the tissue and processing the tissue. So I was quite fortunate in that.
That gave you a much more rounded view then of the science that you were doing.
Absolutely, yeah. As often a lot of technicians want to know what's going on, and over the years it's kind of progressed a bit more that we get a better understanding. Whereas this was a full hands-on understanding, which was it kind of opened my eyes to kind of be like, could I progress to be this? Would this be the sort of line of work I would like to go into? So it was a very good opportunity.
And are you still doing that now?
No, I'm not at the moment. No, unfortunately, I'm not. I haven't been for maybe a couple months now. But I still work with the same group. I still do all the same things for them. It's just billed, so they have to pay for it a bit more now.
There might be. So where do you see yourself heading next then in your career? Like now you've had this opportunity to kind of step out the animal facility for a little bit and come back. And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a bit. At the moment, I'm not sure where I'm going to go with things. Before I'd taken on the technical opportunities, I was looking to actually join the ambulance service. So a total career change at the time. I think, I just, at that point in time, I kind of see myself like, where am I actually going to go from here? What's the progression here? It's kind of fallen about a bit out of love with it, if you say it kind of like that. So at the moment, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I've applied to do the aspiring manager role, course, just to kind of give an insight to, just kind of have all my eggs in one basket sort of thing, kind of give me a bit of a, I've went from cage wash, I've got all the understanding all the way up to there. I don't know what the understanding of management's like, because as staff, you don't know what management go through and what they have to deal with and all that sort of thing. So I've applied for that course. Hopefully by the end of the year, that's what I'll be doing. And then maybe I'll have a better idea of what I'm actually going to do from here.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's a really good course, and it kind of opens your eyes to a different side of science, I think. So I think you will enjoy that.
Yeah, I'm halfway through that course just now, so it's very interesting. You will really like it. Yeah.
But we should definitely do a podcast on those courses, shouldn't we? That's a great idea, and maybe get you back, Kyle, when you've finished.
Yeah. I think the thing is, as well as that aspiring manager thing can be applied to other places. It doesn't just necessarily have to be
that's right.
in the BVS or with the university. It can apply elsewhere. So it's kind of a good thing to have under your belt.
I'm finding everything we talk about, I'm like, oh yeah, I can apply that to life as well. It's just work. So yeah, no, if anyone is thinking about doing it, definitely put your name in the hat for it. It's quite good.
I think it also helps you to understand your manager as well and where they're coming from. So I think it helps all around. Yeah, so Kyle, last question for me really is that, if somebody was thinking about becoming an animal technician, what advice would you have for them?
So at the moment, it's a very tricky situation with how research and how the university are at the moment. We're out of the EU. We've lost a lot of funding from international students. Research isn't as well funded as it used to be. So it's a very tricky. It's a tricky place at the moment, hopefully, touch wood at the moment, jobs are going to be safe for the facility staff at the minute. But my advice would be, it's very tricky because of how things are. My advice would be, if it is something you want to do, it would be maybe to contact, the university or these facilities, these places, and there's an open policy, I believe, with the university, about research, so if it's something you're looking to get into, go and have a tour of a facility, speak to the technical staff. That would be a good thing. But I don't know. I think that would be my only advice at the moment, because it's a scary situation where we are, because we don't know how things are going to go with research. 10 years ago, it was massive. It was busy. It was really, really busy. Now it's a lot quieter. We find ourselves it's a lot quieter with research, and a lot of people are not getting funding. Hence, my technical opportunity role that ended because there was no funding for it.
Yeah, that's kind of the real life knock-on effects out there. I think we're all hearing that kind of the mood music isn't quite so good now. But I wonder how insulated maybe you are within BVS because you have those regulations that you have to match to.
Yeah, obviously you have to have, there's an amount of cages per technician, so there's kind of rules around that. So you need to make sure that there's, people are able to do the job, people are able to do the job fully to the animals are getting the best care, and if we lose staff members and cage numbers go higher, for one person, they have a lot more responsibilities. It can have a detrimental effect. It's a very stressful environment, especially when you have researchers on at you. This needs to be done now. It's kind of it's a hard thing to be doing. I mean, it's not really advice. It's hard to think about it. I
totally know what you mean. It is a bit, it's hard for us to sit here and think, oh, we should give advice to people when we're not really sure what it's going to look like in a few years.
I mean, if you really wanted my real opinion, I should have stuck at construction. That's how I feel at the moment with things going the way they're going. You know, things have changed. A lot of things have changed, and it's not the same place it used to be. It's very difficult.
Thanks for your honesty, and I mean, we wish you all the best, and I hope all the technicians that are listening are going to keep their jobs and do well, and we'll get through this bad spell, and hopefully everything will be better in a few years.
It's very hard on technicians at the minute, because, like, especially animal technicians, because you don't get the gratitude that you deserve. You know, there's a lot of things that are put in place without consulting the people on the floor. You know, it's very hard, and researchers don't understand it. They're not the only person you're looking after. Right? You're not there waiting for their beck and call to do everything for them. It's very tricky. Animal technicians are definitely, you know, they don't get the credit they deserve. 100%.
Hopefully, with this podcast and you coming on this podcast, we can maybe hopefully improve that a little bit.
We have had a lot of recognition over the last couple of years now. We do get included in papers, so that's been a really good thing. You know, to have our name on a paper where we've helped in the research. It's been really great.
That's really good. Is that something you've noticed just over the last few years then?
Yeah. I mean, the amount of emails I get from the hepatology department with my name being on a co-author on a paper has been mental over the last 2 and a bit years, you know, especially working with the lab. And I'm like, what do I do here? And they're like, don't worry about it, we'll sign it, we'll sort it.
Current challenges aside, is it a job that you enjoy? Do you normally, when we're not kind of worrying about the future?
Absolutely, yeah. It is a joyous job knowing that you're making a difference. You know, you're helping make a difference. You know, you're providing good animal care. And at the end of the day, that's the most important part when it comes to research, is if you're using animals, they're number one. They are the priority. They are the big one, you know. So I do enjoy it. I fell out of love with it for a little bit. That's why I was saying about going in to be a paramedic. But then the technical opportunity job role came up, and it was lab work as well as animal work. So I would go for it.
Thanks, Kyle. That's been really interesting getting to learn more about your role.
Good, nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you as well. Cool. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Technically Edinburgh. As always, thank you to Lee and to our guest Kyle. And don't forget to subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts to make sure you don't miss an episode. In April, we will be changing from Technically Edinburgh to Technically Scotland. We'll be covering stories from technicians across Scotland. So don't miss out, and make sure you follow along on our new LinkedIn page, Technically Scotland Podcast. We're very grateful to have been given funding from the Technician Commitment Collaboration Fund to help us with this relaunch and expansion. In April, there is a Scotland TechNet event happening at the University of Edinburgh with a theme around sustainability. So don't miss out. Please get your tickets and sign up as soon as you can. Lee and I will be there promoting Technically Scotland and delivering a workshop all about how to make your hidden sustainability work more visible. So please come and say hi at the event at the end of April. See you then, or see you next time.